From spending days on demand letters to less than 30 minutes. Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast, helping law firm owners go from grind to greatness. I'm your host, Darren Wirtz. With AI advancing rapidly, law firm owners have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to outpace the competition, increase efficiency, and scale smarter. Our guest today is Travis Easton, a personal injury attorney and the youngest partner at Easton & Easton in California. He's also the founder of AI Demand Pro, an innovative legal tech platform transforming how law firms generate demand letters and manage case prep.
We are on a mission to help lawyers and law firm owners maximize wealth and achieve financial independence. Welcome to the Lawyer Millionaire with Darren Wirtz from Wirtz Financial Services.
All right, Travis, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Darren. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, it's exciting. We've got an exciting topic. You know, AI is all the rage, of course, these days. I was at Legal Week a few weeks ago, and every single, breakout session was about AI. I was kind of sick of it towards the end.
When I go to those conferences as well, pretty much, I think you can't have a booth at a legal conference these days if you don't have the word AI somewhere on your banner or your platform or whatever. I think everything, even if it's not really doing that much AI, you still have to market it that you do some AI.
You know, it's wild. It reminds me of the 90s and the dot-com bubble. You know, everybody was a dot-com. They just put it in their title somewhere. Maybe we'll put it in our title, the Lawyer Millionaire AI, right? You know, just so it's in there.
Instantly worth a lot more money, right? Yeah, no.
Right. Yeah, get that SEO. Well, let's dive into it a little bit. Are lawyers adopting it? It's I see it a big topic of conversation, but I think the adoption rate is still a little bit low. Let's talk about the biggest myths. What are some of the biggest myths that you find lawyers and law firm owners have about AI, and how are those hurting them in their growth?
I think some of the biggest myths, there was the really famous story when ChatGPT had its moment a few years ago, and it just exploded onto the scene. And we all heard about in the legal world about that lawyer who references a bunch of cases in a brief, and then it turns out they were completely fake cases. And, in the industry, we could refer to those as hallucinations, where just AI makes things up out of thin air, right? This sounds great. This would be a great case for this set of facts. Let's make it up, right? And that does happen, right? AI does hallucinate, and it is something that is real. But I do think that if you're going with the right product in the right setting, you can very much eliminate those hallucinations, and it's not something that you need to be scared off from. And you can work with it, right? I think the idea behind AI in the legal world, to me, is it's meant to make you more efficient. It's meant to make you more revenue. And it's just meant to make a better work product if it's done correctly. And I think all of those things can be done with the right AI, in the right setting. Right. And it's not for everything. And you definitely do have to check your work product. And so I tell everybody, that's signing up with our product, and it's in our contract. Hey, you are the attorney. You are responsible for reviewing this and making sure that you are, you find it acceptable and you are happy with this work product to put out on behalf of your client. And I think that is one of the most important things. But I do think that especially the older generations, are a little terrified of it just making things up.
Yeah, that can certainly happen. But there are ways to fix that, of course. So Travis, you are both a law firm owner and a legal tech founder. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, thanks. So my dad started a personal injury practice over 30 years ago. My oldest brother, who's about 18 years older with him, became a lawyer shortly thereafter and has been with him ever since. And then I got a brother in between us who joined about 10 years after that, or maybe a little more than that. And then I joined shortly there a few years after that. And so I'm the youngest child. And so I was the last one. My dad ran out of kids. And so then we had to start hiring outside the family. And we have 7 associates, I think going on 8 once our latest one passes the bar in a few months. And so the firm has grown tremendously in the last 10 years, which has been great. And so, it's a personal injury law firm. I don't know if I mentioned that, but so we specialize in car accidents, slip and falls, trip and falls, catastrophic premise liability cases. We've been able to handle some big ones that have settled in the 20s and 30 millions over the last 5 years, which has been great. And so, yeah, we're pretty good. We have about over 100 years of experience doing personal injury within our family alone. And so we have quite a bit of experience in this field. And then, moving on, about 2 years ago, what ended up happening was I got this idea of when ChatGPT had its moment, we were like, well, I was listening actually to a podcast, and they were talking about, how could we invest in AI, right? In the different companies, and that it was meant for that. But one of the guys who's really smart was like, wow, this is going to really change the legal space, which he was right. It was very prophetic what he said. But he said, if I was a lawyer or if I was in the legal space, I would really think, how could I either use this in my law practice or create a business to, leverage it. And so I was thinking, well, what could I do? And to be honest, one of the best things that we do at our firm is we write really good settlement demands. That's my dad has always prided us on. You tell your client's story. You're telling it to the adjuster or the attorney on the other side, like you would tell it to the jury at a trial. And so we've always we spent more time than the average personal injury attorney on putting together a very good work product at the demand stage, which doesn't always happen. A lot of attorneys out there just take the records and the bills and they slam it onto a cover letter on that says, pay me X amount of dollars. And that's definitely not what we did, right? We told our client's story to try to maximize the case. And it resulted in us being able to settle a lot of cases for a lot of money without even having to go into litigation and, put our clients through the tough ordeal of a litigation process. And so with that, I said, we write pretty good demands. I think that we could, maybe potentially use AI to help us in that. And so I talked to a buddy who was in the tech space, and do you think this has legs? And he said it did. And he was instrumental, to be honest, because I would have had no idea where to go. Don't know engineers, don't know software engineers, don't know anything. So he was very helpful in a lot of regards on getting us set up with the right people. Created a proof of concept, tested it out within our firm, and it was like, yeah, this works. So then we brought on just an unbelievable software engineer 1.5 years ago, and he kind of rebuilt the whole thing so that it could withstand, 1 million cases being thrown at it at a time, and built the whole infrastructure. And then we've just continued to test it. And, one of the biggest things is that we have our firm where we tested it for about a year before we even launched it. And we just tested it on real life cases to get it exactly how we wanted it. And we continue to do so, right? There's always little tweaks and little fixes. But I think that is one of the biggest advantages that we have had in this space, is that we are the only company out there that's trying to do AI settlement demands for personal injury that is actually attorneys, that has the experience, knows what the output should be, and knows what personal injury attorneys are looking for. And so because of that, we've been able to create a pretty amazing product that a ton of firms have just seen the value in. And unfortunately, we launched it about 6 months ago to other firms, and quite a few have signed up now, and it's been great.
That's really cool. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't know the first place to begin for creating an AI product. So you need that engineer, that tech person partnership. I'm curious, in this process, this has probably been pretty eye-opening for you in terms of what it means, what it takes to take a business from an idea to scale. What lessons have you learned about business ownership along the way?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting and awesome at the same time, because I am a business owner for the firm, but I also came into it at the end, right? And I definitely have had some great ideas and that have helped grow our law firm. But to be honest, I've piggybacked off of the success of my dad and brothers quite a bit, and they've done an amazing job. And we've been able to grow our firm because my dad has tried over 100 trials. My other brother is an ABOTA attorney, which just means he's tried over 20. And we just have a lot of success. And then my other brother has done great things, and he's really upped our marketing game, right? And stuff. And so, there's other things that I've added there, but I've also, to be honest, I've gotten a lot of really cool things from their success, which is great. And so it's been awesome on the other side to now kind of be the head of this new venture, right? And so I'm really, spearheading this on behalf of, the brothers and my dad and stuff. And so trying to grow this and doing it from the infancy and getting to see that process of, okay, this is what you got to do in the beginning. These are the growing pains. These are the difficult parts. And, while it's been challenging at times and frustrating, as, what I've realized in the tech space is, the product is never perfect. And I would text my friend who's our kind of consultant and has helped us out, and I'd be like, oh, we just had a huge breakthrough, right? And it did this or whatever, as we were building it, and then something a day later would break, and it would be like, oh, this happened, and he would always just tell me like, hey, look, in tech, the app or the software, whatever you're building, is never perfect. You're never 100% satisfied. And I think you look at Apple, you look at Microsoft, you look at all these companies, they come out with a new software update every year, right? And it's just, you're constantly improving it. And so, in that regard, it's kind of different. And then the other thing I would say is, with the law firm, we're helping injured people try to maximize and get recovery for the terrible injuries they've gone through. And that's super rewarding. And it's always, when you can do that and change someone's life and try to right a wrong, it's unbelievably satisfying. But it's different in the sense that you're doing a service for someone, right? Great. This is building something, right? It's building a product, which I've never been a part of before. And so now that we have this product that, to be honest, just is amazing. The capabilities of it and how it, has transformed our firm and transforms other firms as far as efficient revenue, just the speed at which they can do things now is just remarkable. And so, to be honest, I'm just super proud that I've been able to be a part of that process in building this. Over the last 2 years, and now can kind of look at it. And even though there's still work to be done and still a lot of things to come, be like, wow, this is really cool when you kind of look back and see where you started and where you're at.
Yeah, definitely. It gives you an insider's look at, the structure and what it takes to grow a business. And I love that you're kind of in the right place at the right time and taking advantage of the moment. For so many, this is a great like lesson. We've been, I don't know how familiar you are with our business, but we have a book club for lawyers and law firm owners. It's part of our community aspect. And we read The Psychology of Money last quarter, and Morgan Housel talks about the interplay of luck and risk. And so much of life is luck, just being in the right place at the right moment, and taking advantage of an opportunity. And I see that for you. And in fact, this quarter, we're reading Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. And same thing for him. He started importing Japanese shoes at a moment in time where it was like, it was the perfect time to start doing it. And just being there at that right moment, what a great, opportunity. And you're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, I've read both of those books, but you're
awesome.
100%. They're amazing books. I really, The Psychology of Money has so many different ideas than you've heard in other financial books. I would recommend it for anybody that wants. And it's not too long; it's a pretty quick read. So and Shoe Dog's great, great story. I think it's who was it? It was another very famous author, but kind of went through this. But it's also the same thing with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. They were always. They were all the founders of those big tech companies. They were all around the same age. They all came from means where they, had enough, their parents had enough money to be able to get them into computer classes and things like that. And so it's kind of that same concept, right? Where, they had an unbelievable talent and very, very smart, but they were also in the right place at the right time, right when things were taking off, and they took advantage of it, right? Which a lot of people wouldn't have. And, going off of that, I have always wanted to start a tech company even when I became a lawyer, when my friend started his tech company and I learned about it, I was like, wow, that's really cool. I would really like to do that someday, or invest or do, be a part of it. But the thing, the main one was like a case management software, and that was pretty saturated in our market. And, I wanted to do it in a market that I knew something about. I think that we have a huge advantage over a lot of people because we're not just tech people, right? That are just trying, let's go build an app, and do something.
Right.
The legal market should be good, but we're lawyers. Like, this is what we do every day. And so, I wanted to do it in a space that I knew because I think that gives you a huge advantage. But I just didn't see the opportunity. But when I heard that podcast and I sat down and I was like, what could I do? And luckily pieces fell into place, just to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew a couple of people that were the right people. We, had the means to be able to, to do it. And then, we had the expertise, right, to be able to, on the legal side, to build it. And then we got connected to the right software engineers to be able to make it happen for us. And we've just been blessed with the software engineer we hired initially because honestly, it was just like, it needs to do this. And he's just like, okay, I'll make it happen. And you're just like, I don't know how many people there are out there that can do that, but he did it. And he's been unbelievable to work with. So
very cool. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about where else you see AI taking a main stage in running a law practice. Demand letters, that's what your product is really great at. What are some other areas, like in the next 5 years, where do you see AI going within a law practice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to take anything that is you would think of as transactional, right? I think any lawyer that is arguing, litigating, is going to be completely fine, right? I don't think AI is going to touch that for a very, very long time. But the paperwork, anything that is being done in any industry that is just paperwork and numbers and things and data that needs to be analyzed very quickly, AI can just do that better. Like, you take our example. Just to give everybody that, isn't familiar with personal injury, a demand letter is you take the medical records, the bills, the photos, the police report, in a typical car accident case, you take all of that and you would normally have a person summarize all of that into a letter, right? Kind of like a book report, if you will. And then you demand a number, and that's what you would send to the insurance company and say, pay me X amount of dollars. And that's kind of like the first big step after a client is done treating that you would send out. And so, that can take anywhere from, if you do a good job, right? And it's not just putting a cover letter on the documents, but if you really take the time to summarize all the records, which is the main time consuming part of that, it's hours to days, depending on, you could have 5,000 to 10,000 medical pages of records, right? That you have to summarize and check and see, okay, are there any issues in here? Anything that we need to know about or be worried about? It's very, very time consuming and it's very boring. To be honest, it was our highest turnover position at our firm by far. Like, it's usually college graduates, just out of school, English majors, people that have a decent writing, capabilities. And then they've got to learn the medicine because they probably don't know what a lumbar fusion surgery or something like that is. And so by the time you would train them to know those things, they're bored and they don't like their job and they're quitting. And so it was very difficult. My sister is our head demand writer. She's been doing it with us for 15 years. She's been the one constant there, but everybody else comes and goes. They either go back to law school, they try something else, right? And stuff. So it was a tough position. Since we've created AI Demand Pro, not a single person has quit. It's just made their lives so much more enjoyable because what happens now is you take all of those components, you put it into our software, and instead of it taking hours and days, it generates a demand usually in about 15 to 20 minutes. But if it's thousands and thousands of pages, it's less than a half hour, 45 minutes. And so you just think about the time saving capability of that.
Yeah.
Right? Now the demand writer still takes that time afterwards to review it, edit it. If it needs to be better, make it better, change anything it needs to. And then it goes to the attorney. He reviews it and then it goes out the door. And so now our firm is basically, we're sending out twice as many demands as we did prior to creating AI Demand Pro. And I think that can be used in every single thing like that, whether it's contracts, whether it's real estate deals, that, are transactional, whether it's discovery, and things like that, even depositions, right? There's a lot of summarization that goes in depositions as you're getting ready for trial, and just summarizing everything. All of those components, and I'm sure a lot more that I'm unfamiliar with, could definitely be utilized by AI to make things more efficient and quicker and just better. When we created our version 1.0 of Demand Pro back in September, it was a very good demand, but I would just say it made us quicker. It wasn't like it made us better. And I thought it would take years before it was like, oh, this is a better demand than a human could write. We just released our version 2.0 about a month ago. And to be honest, it's better than a lot of associate attorneys can write a demand.
Wow.
Demand writers can write a demand. It's just the capability of it is pretty astounding. My brother was preparing a mediation brief a week and a half ago, and he called me and he just literally said, hey, I'm going through this summary of the medical records. It was thousands and thousands of pages, and it was a 20-page summary. And he said, I haven't made a single change yet. I've just been bolding stuff, the really important stuff. And he's like, this is unbelievable, right? And that's a 30-year attorney, and he didn't have to make one single change to the medical summary. It's pretty remarkable what AI, if it's done correctly, can do to help firms.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just such a game changer. What are some of your other favorite tools, AI tools that you're using right now?
So obviously, you can just use the generic ChatGPT, and things like that for, emails, and sometimes if you want to, I always tell people, like, you only have so much brain power in the day, right? And so, by the end of the day, you're usually pretty zoned out and tired and stuff. And so what I see, what I utilize on things like that is if I need to just sharpen up an email or something like that. I don't put any personal data or anything like that, obviously, but you can either put in the email and, hey, draft me a response like this, and then you play around with it. But I think most lawyers and most, most people would agree it is much easier to edit a document than having to come up with the response or or the wording originally, right? I think when an associate drafts it, that's the most time consuming part, right? When they're drafting a letter or a document or something. When the partner gets to come in and review it and edit it, I mean, it's just a much easier process because you've already usually got the ideas and the structure and everything there. And that, to me, that's kind of what AI can do for you in a lot of those regards, is get you the outline, get you the structure, the general idea, general theme. And then from there, you can take it and make it your own and make sure it doesn't sound like AI, obviously.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, we use it in a lot of things. I use ChatGPT every day just for, the small tasks. We really like Otter for note taking. I use AI for the podcast, for creating the transcript, for finding the clips, for, social media, marketing stuff. It makes a lot more possible when you're a small team.
Yeah, no, I've used Otter as well. I coach my baseball team. And so we had a big umpires meeting that you're mandatory, you have to go to. And it was like 3 hours long. I literally just turned it on and I was like, all right, record this and take notes, and it was great. Like, it was amazing at what it was able to do. And now you just have that nice clean outline if you ever need to reference anything from something like that. So it really is amazing what it can do for you.
Absolutely. Travis, tell us a little bit about what's next for you. You've been so innovative in creating this program. I'm sure you have other great ideas down in the pipeline, right?
We're working on some stuff. Yeah. So in about 2 to 3 months, we'll be releasing a discovery AI platform. So basically, just if you take a personal injury case, for example, you gather all those documents, you generate the demand letter, you send it out for X amount of dollars. If it settles, great. If it doesn't settle, that's when the attorney would then go and file the lawsuit and proceed with what's called litigation, right? And that's when usually in those types of cases, the attorney would get involved on the other side, and you're not dealing with just the adjuster anymore for the insurance. And then you generally, at least in our cases, the first step of that is what's called discovery or written discovery, right? And so those are interrogatories and requests for production and things like that. And so what we're building basically is an AI platform within AI Demand Pro that will be able to funnel the information from that you've already generated in the demand, and anything relevant that can be used within those interrogatory responses will funnel over and give you draft responses there. And then it's going to have a lot of cool little features with, objections and, auto objections and AI objections and things like that, just to be honest, like that we've been able to train it. And it's just going to be like the demands where we'll have that legal expertise because we litigate a lot of cases where we know, okay, these types of cases these types of questions call for these types of objections and things like that. And, and one of the beauties of our product for both demands and discovery is we can customize it to exactly how the firm that signs up wants, right? So by templates and by other means, we're able to customize it. So it's not like you're getting the Easton and Easton product, which is our firm's name. You're getting however you've done it in the past, we can customize it to be exactly that way. We're just going to speed up the very, very time consuming parts, to supplement and improve your work product, but it's still going to look like yours. It's not going to look like ours. It's not going to look like some generic thing. And I think that's one of the features, that, law firms have loved about it so far is it doesn't sound like AI, and it looks exactly like they did it before. It's just better and it's faster.
Very cool.
That's how the discovery will be.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Well, you've given us a lot to think about, and I think law firm owners everywhere really need to be thinking critically about all the AI tools that are out there and doing their research and doing their homework. There are so many. There's an explosion of tools, and this is how you're going to compete against the bigger firms. If you're a smaller firm, this is how you're going to stay relevant and really be able to, continue to make an impact. The big firms are going to be very reluctant to start using these. And that's your advantage as a small practice, to be able to start implementing some tools and doing it in a way that is ethical and can make you more productive.
100%. Yep. No. And I mean, I think everybody will get there. Some will get there sooner with the implementation, and some will take a little bit longer. Right. And that's fine. That's kind of how I think all adoption, generally happens, right? There's early adopters, and then there's people that come on later when they really finally have to see the benefit of it. And, and like you said, the little guys versus the big guys, right? I mean, for our product, one of the beauties is we sign up people that are doing one demand a month, and we sign up people that are doing hundreds of demands a month. And, the product can help both of them. And there's no like, oh, this is only meant for this size firm or anything like that. We have firms that just are doing one demand a month, and that's great, and they still see the benefit. And then those that are really pumping out a lot of demands, they really see the benefit because it just compounds, right? And so it just really makes them a lot more quicker and more efficient.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Travis, we mentioned the book club, and you mentioned you've read both of those books. I'm curious, is there anything you're reading right now that's really been a great read for you, or anything else that was maybe one of your favorites?
Yeah, I really did like both of those. I've told a lot of people to read The Psychology of Money. The story I remember most of that one is, and I'm going to forget, but it was the really famous author of Catcher in the Rye, and I should know that. But he's out on, I think it's Staten Island, right? And he's talking to someone, and his book is the, biggest book of the century or whatever. And someone, at one of those kind of Great Gatsby parties says to him, kind of mean in a way, right? Like, isn't it crazy there at this big house, like, that this guy made more in a day than your book has made, so far, like that. I can't remember the exact thing, but something in that regard. And the response from the author was, yeah, but you know what I have that he'll never have? Enough. Right. And I just love that concept, right? That we're always chasing more, right? Yeah. And to a certain degree, that's great. But at some point, you also, when is it enough money? When is it enough fame? When is it enough? And I think that that's something that we all need to keep track of. But
Absolutely.
to answer your question, Winning by Tim Grover. I finished that book a little bit ago. So Tim Grover was the guru. He really was the exercise kind of, not physical therapist, but the exercise guru for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. He works with countless other, Dwayne Wade and a lot, and then now he goes to businesses, but he just has this, this philosophy, and he calls it, just of winning, right? He's got a couple books. The first one was Relentless, which is great, but I actually read Winning first. Someone that I follow had recommended it, and it really just, the concepts, right? You just, if you've watched The Last Dance, with Michael Jordan's kind of biography, right, of that last season, you really see that personality. And after you've read the book, and I rewatched that show again, and you kind of just see it, right? And a lot of people may get turned off by how relentless, and it was just everything, he had to win, but he won, right? And he and he was amazing, and in my opinion, the best of all time. And and I think that we can take a lot of that in business, in life, in parenting, and just whatever aspects you're dealing with, right? And kind of have that instinct of like, I'm going to get it done. And so I highly recommend it. It's got a lot of great themes and philosophies that I think anybody that kind of wants to take their life or their business to the next level, it will definitely motivate you to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the recommendation. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes along with everything else. Travis, it's been great having you on the show today.
Thank you, Darren. It was great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. A big thank you to Travis Easton for joining us today. Learn more about him and his work in the show notes. And here's my big takeaway. Small law firms have a massive opportunity to leap ahead using AI tools. You don't need to be a tech wizard. You just need to be willing to test, iterate, and get curious. Leveraging AI isn't just about saving time. It's about freeing yourself from low-value tasks and building a firm that functions efficiently. That's one key part of turning your law firm into a wealth-building machine. If you like today's episode, give us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to join the book club. Just head on over to lawyermillionaire.com and click community at the top of the page. It's free. That's a wrap for this episode of the Lawyer Millionaire Podcast. I'm your host, Darren Wirtz. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Lawyer Millionaire. Click the follow button below to be notified when new episodes become available. This content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. This content is not intended to represent investing or tax advice. Always seek the advice of a qualified investment or tax advisor with any questions you may have regarding your own financial circumstances.